If you're seeing this, you might be experiencing what's known as tunnel vision. I know, most players' reaction to this diagnosis is denial, blaming others, threat assessment, or just shitposting on Reddit. But I'm here to raise awareness for this debilitating illness. And, like many, if you know anyone that's experiencing symptoms of tunnel vision, please share the video to spread awareness, and maybe we'll be able to find a cure with your help.
Alright, block there, kill that. Oh, that is trample. Guess I'm just dead on board.
Starting us off is Hidden Planet X with Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy. Next up is Fernando, rocking Talion, the Kindly Lord. In the third spot is Mark, on his favorite pet deck Azami, Lady of Scrolls. And bringing up the rear is Jordan, back on Teferi, Temporal Archmage. But without further ado, let's get onto the gameplay. Hidden starts off the game cracking a Misty Rainforest for a Trop, and shortcuts with the Finhorn Elves. Fernando plays an Underground Cedh land, following it up with a Mox Diamond, discarding an Exotic Orchard. Still not done though, he casts a Mana Vault into a Soul Ring, and with his floating colorless casts a Talisman of Dominance. Finally, ending his turn casting his Commander Talion, naming one off the ETB.
And I can only do that, so I'm gonna pass.
Only.
Yeah, that's it. Slow turn.
Yeah. Mark, on the other hand, has a much simpler turn, just playing an island and passing. Jordan has an island and uses it on a Soul Ring, triggering Talion to lose 2 and draw Fernando a card. Hidden has a City of Brass and takes 1 to cast Kinnan, following it up by taking 2 to cast a Bloom Tender. Fernando draws from Talion, but Hidden is done after that. Fernando takes 1 from his tap vault and then casts a Yahenni's Expertise, with Hidden responding with the Fierce Guardianship.
That's bullshit, Steve.
Fernando then ends his turn with combat, sending Talion at Hidden for 3.
That would have been so good if it resolved.
That would have been so awful.
Of course, Steve has an answer. God damn it.
Mark plays a Cavern of Souls on Wizards, and for 2 casts a Baral. This still triggers Talion, and Fernando gets another draw. Jordan plays a Misty Rainforest, and for 3 casts a Verity Circle.
Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it's
God.
not attacking, I can draw a card.
This is just like, fuck you, Kinnan. Oh my god.
And then I'm just going to crack Rainforest and pass.
Hidden is not giving up yet though, as he plays a Waterlogged Grove and a Chromox. He imprints a Transmute artifact and taps 10 to cast a Jin Kataxis Court Augur. He does give 2 cards to Jordan off the circle, but surprisingly, the Praetor resolves, with Hidden heading to his end step to draw 7 and discard an Exotic Orchard due to hand size.
Well, that sucks. Keep draw.
Oh, hey, I've got a hand that'll refill yours, Fernando.
How about no?
Fernando starts off his turn with Heuristic Study. See, you're fine discarding your hand, you're just gonna draw it back on your opponent's turn. Next up is a Gilded Drake, to which Hidden responds with a Force of Will.
You really drew it. How lucky is he? How lucky
He
is
just
he?
drew 7.
Yeah, but
I'm gonna
how
touch a
lucky
swamp
is
song.
he? Paying 1?
I can't.
Oh my god! Fuck yeah! Oh, right off the top.
You get another draw.
Sadness, state-based act.
That's sure. The luckiest man alive. Honestly. Jesus Christ.
Fernando has an Urza Saga as land for turn, and at his end step flashes in a Dress Down to save the remaining cards in hand from Jin. Unfortunately, this doesn't seem to be Mark's game, as he misses his land drop, but is able to cast a tap Sky Diamond. And at his end step, the Dress Down is sacrificed, and he then needs to discard his hand due to Jin. Jordan plays an island and casts up Assault Monolith, tapping it to pay for a Heuristic Study of his own.
Are you casting anything? Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah, he cast a Heuristic Study.
That I forgot. But can I on those? Can I trigger a heuristic?
So I'm gonna pay for the first one with this.
No, dude. Why?
What?
Give me seriously, you don't want to give me cards right now?
Oh, fine.
I mean, I don't want to influence you, but I think you want me with
What did I
cards.
tell you when I just stepped in, Fernando?
I don't know, but can I draw?
Draw.
Okay.
You draw one. I have
Sure.
one.
I mean, if you think that's sure, I'll take one. Take anything you give me, Jordan.
Hidden plays an Ottawaro's land and decides to just head to his end step and draw 7 new cards, discarding a few due to hand size. Now at this point, we realize Hidden needs to pay for his pact, and since he didn't cast anything, he just taps his mana and we head to Fernando's turn. Fernando draws and unticks his Saga.
Did it work?
We playing.
Yeah.
We playing.
You're welcome. Are we playing or are you playing?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
As I said, Jin Kataxis doesn't win me the game. It puts me in a good spot, but it doesn't win me the game.
Fernando is hoping Hidden is out of counter magic and starts off with a phantasmal image. He gives a card to Jordan. Hidden doesn't like the idea of Fernando getting to draw 7 cards and taps his Bloom Tender for 3 to cast a mana drain. Jordan gets to draw off his circle, with Hidden deciding to pay for Fernando's but not Jordan's Ristic. The image is then countered, with Fernando then casting a Reanimate, targeting the Gilded Drake. Jordan gets to draw from the study, with Hidden responding with a Worldly Tutor. This triggers Talion, Jordan gets a card from the circle, and Hidden doesn't pay for either Ristic. The tutor is good, and Hidden then gets to put a Hullbreaker Horror on top. Still with the Reanimate on the stack, Hidden casts a Flusterstorm, to which storm count being 5. Hidden does take 2 from Talion, but he can pay for Fernando's Ristic with his floating mana, while Jordan gets to draw another card. The Reanimate is countered, and Fernando then casts a Mox Opal, giving another card to Jordan, and following that up with a Gitaxian Probe to look at Hidden's hand. Although to be honest, I think at this point looking at Jordan's hand would have been better, as Fernando then casts a Yawgmoth's Will, letting Jordan draw again. The spell resolves, and Fernando then casts his Reanimate to target the Fimage, which enters as a copy of Kinnan. This lets his Mox tap for 2 to recast his Gilded Drake. Jordan draws, with the Drake swapping control with the Djinn. Fernando is still on his main phase and heads to combat as he sends Talion back at Hidden, who chumps with the new Drake to make sure it gets exiled as it dies. Fernando then gets to draw 7 at his end step and has to head to discard as well. The cards do get exiled due to the Yawgmoth's Will, but that's all Fernando has for now. Mark draws his card and then heads to discard. But before that, Jordan at his end step casts a Chain of Vapor to bounce the Djinn. He takes 2 due to Talion and gives another card off the Ristic to Fernando, but the Djinn is bounced. Jordan plays another island and for 2 casts a Power Artifact on his Monolith. He can use his Soul Ring to untap the Monolith and start the chain for infinite colorless. Next up is Teferi, who downticks to untap his lands. And Jordan, having infinite colorless, drops all of his rocks from hand, casting a Thran Dynamo into a Sensei's top. This does give a card to Fernando, with the Chainveil then coming out next, which will give him the game, as he can continue to downtick his Walker to untap the Veil, letting him recast his Walker an infinite amount of times to draw his deck, and then with him infinitely upticking an Ugin to bolt the table to death, winning him the game. Game review. Well, I guess the title of this video sums it all up. Tunnel vision. Both Fernando and Hidden were so focused on each other that they forgot about everything else, and gave a big opportunity to Jordan. And even with his hand still being discarded, he drew way too many cards off of his circle and Ristic Study that he was really never out of the game. And with all the counter magic being blown on Fernando, he had an easy path to victory. Although I do feel bad for Mark, as this just was not his game. He had a bit of a slow start, and after missing his land drop and having to discard his hand, he was definitely out of it. I was really just hoping to make it back to my turn, as I was holding the win with Hullbreaker to loop rocks for infinite mana. But I guess that's just how some games go. And before everyone leaves, I want to thank a special Patreon member, Josh Schutt, for his support of the channel, along with all of our other Patreon supporters as well. And as always, I want to thank all the players who joined the games, and remember, never give up, even if you're dead on board. I'll see you guys later.